Recording in progress.
All right. See if we can get Tom in here. Okay.
Nope. Now there's an iPhone in the meeting room.
See if we can get all of them in here. Just making sure everyone's in and muted. All right, here we go. Tonight, Martha Moore is going to sit in as chair. And Martha, can I start the script?
Yes, please.
Sure. So hello, everyone. This is Chuck Taroni, Reading Conservation Administrator, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and allowing us to adhere to social distancing requirements during the COVID-19 crisis. The Town of Reading Conservation meeting is being held virtually via Zoom for audio and visual participation of the conservation commissioners, applicants, and their representatives and the public. During this meeting, myself or the chair will unmute commissioners, applicants, and representatives and members of the public as needed. During the commission's meeting, the chair will be the only one to permit or share videos. These controls are in place to ensure that tonight's meeting is being safe and effective. And tonight, when I'm saying the chair, I really mean Martha Moore, who's the vice chair, sitting in as chair tonight. At this time, Martha Moore will conduct a roll call vote to confirm that members are present and can hear her.
Okay. Anika Scanlon.
Anika Scanlon present.
Brian.
Brian Bowe, member present.
John.
John Sullivan present.
And Joe.
Present.
We do have a quorum, so we can start the meeting.
Great. Please note that this meeting being recorded. Also be aware that folks may be able to see you and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All of the material for this meeting is available on the Conservation Division site, and I recommend that the commission members, the public, follow the agenda as posted on the town website unless otherwise noted. However, because this meeting is being conducted remotely, I advise applicants in particular that the commission cannot discuss or consider documents which were not previously posted. Information may, however, be presented orally. Similarly, members of the public are encouraged to provide written public comment, but should understand that not all participants nor the commission members will be able to see any written comments during the course of this meeting. Before we get started on tonight's agenda, I want to go over some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure the accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair or the administrator yields the floor and state your name before speaking. After commission members make their remarks, and these remarks have been addressed by the applicant, the chair or the administrator will afford the public comment as follows. The chair will first ask for members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves by name. Once the chair has a list of public commentators, the chair will call on each one by name and afford them 4 minutes for their comments. The applicant may be requested to respond to the chair. After public comment, the chair will once again go down the line of commissioners, inviting each one of them by name to provide further comment, question, or motions. Please hold off until your name is called. Finally, each vote taken during this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Thank you.
Okay. Our first item on the agenda is 1310 Main Street. I believe we're going to continue that to our next meeting. Is that correct, Chuck?
I'm just going to ask if there's anyone here to speak about 1310 Main Street, to go down to the reactions button and raise your hand. Is this information for 1310 Main Street came in on Saturday? The site visit was done on Friday, and Friday was the 8th of October. And so it was not sent out to the Conservation Commission. It would be available for the next meeting. So seeing no hands, I think that we can continue requesting a motion.
Okay, and can I hear a motion to continue the hearing of 1310 Main Street to October 27th?
So moved. Seconded.
Okay.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. We can start with the next one, which is 0 Small Lane. It is to continue the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by LLC Megan Johnson, Delray Realty, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act. The applicant proposes construction of a limited project stream crossing, retaining walls, wetland alteration, wetland replication, drainage, grading, and associate utilities under WPA 310, CMR 10.00 only. All work is within 100 feet of a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under Current Project, Assessors Map 40 and 41, Lot 153, 155, and 29, DEP file number 270-0748. Is there anybody here representing that here? It looks like Maureen Harold is.
Okay. So Maureen Harold,
Muted.
okay, great.
I'm unmuted. I can't start my video.
Okay. Oh, there she is.
Well,
Huh.
I suppose it doesn't matter anyhow, but
Hold on a second, Maureen. I just found you. Okay, the big M. Okay.
okay.
Oh.
Good evening. Maureen Harold from Norse Environmental. Here with me tonight is Jack Sullivan, design engineer. If you could unmute him and
Sure thing.
allow his video, that would be great. And also we have attorney Bill Proya. Likewise, if you could do the same for him as well.
Yep.
Thank you. So, geez, we were in front of the commission a bit ago.
Anyone else? What about Bill Johnson?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I submitted documentations on October 6th, requesting the commission to consider amending the notice of intent filing to include it under the Town of Reading General Bylaw and Reading Wetland Protection Regulations. I revised the notice of intent that's been submitted to the town, and I will send Commissioner Moore and Anika copies in the mail as well. I received that request. But essentially revising the cover page, the notice of intent report to address the local bylaws, as well as the wetland replication report as well. Wanted to give the commission an update. The areas, so we performed a site visit maybe 2 months ago. The commission requested that the crossing to be staked out in the fields, as well as the trees to be removed. Jack Sullivan staked the crossing and also flagged all the trees to be removed. I'm not sure if the commission is interested in doing another site visit, but if you are, the site is prepared.
Maureen, I have a question.
Sure.
So we have hired third-party review to review this application. So I believe it would be okay for you to summarize things, but I'm not sure that we should get too deep into this. And I believe that we're going to be discussing other things about this project tonight. And maybe that would be more appropriate, which is outside the realm of what we asked third-party review to do. So, I mean, you can continue, but I'm not sure requesting site visits and all that without knowing what the review is meaningful.
Do we have any idea, Chuck, on when we may expect the initial review from LEC?
I talked to Ann Martin, and she said when you sent her, myself and her, the updated request to file under the Wetlands Protection Act and the town bylaw, that she needed to basically start at that point. So that
Really?
that's what she said.
Okay. So would the commission feel comfortable discussing the possibility of amending the notice of intent to include your local bylaw?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. But you know,
Okay.
Mhm.
So,
So let me set it up a little bit, just so, I mean, I think that the applicant came in under the Wetlands Protection Act, and for reasons that, you know, that was his team made a decision. And I think that the Conservation Commission would be putting in all of the same work. I don't think that we would recognize the difference between the two until we had to start making conditions and reviewing specific aspects of that project. Now that it's back to a bylaw or the request is to be back to a bylaw and WPA project, I think this is very typical of what we look at. I believe it wouldn't be any different. We would, and just the process that would have to happen is we could give an approval under the Wetlands Protection Act, and the applicant would only have to come back in to the commission to be reviewed under the local bylaw. So this is definitely a time saver, and I believe something that we would have been doing in the back of our minds anyways as we went through this process. That's what I can add to it.
okay, so, so do we need to vote something to allow the applicant to, so we need a motion to allow the applicant to revise the notice of intent?
Mhm.
Okay, is there a motion for that?
So I'll make a motion to allow the applicant to revise the NOI.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
So Darren, I'll just let you know that Ann Martin, who's reviewing this project, understood this, and she also said essentially what I said also, which was that it's not going to make much difference to review it under both. And she's done some review for us before, so she's comfortable with our regulations.
Okay, so can we do a roll call vote?
Sure.
Or do you?
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. Is there anything else you're looking for tonight, Maureen?
No, I think at this point, we need to wait for LEC to come back and do an initial review. so that we can address any questions or concerns that they have, unless there's anything else the commission would like to discuss on it this evening. Okay. Chuck, oh, I'm sorry. Chuck, what's your recommendation for a continuance?
Yeah, so it seems like things are slowing down a little bit over there at LEC. So I would go 2 meetings, or you could just go to the next meeting, and if it doesn't come in, just continue. It would be easiest if you did it that way to the following meeting. That would be the first meeting in November. So continue to the October 27th meeting.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't come in, we'll continue it to the first November meeting. That's what I recommend.
Okay. Sounds good.
Do we need a vote on that or not?
You need a vote to continue to the October 27th meeting.
All right, can I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
I second.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Granahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, and it is now 7:22, so we can start the next meeting, which is Lot A, Main Street, next to 1261 Main Street. Are there
Sure.
people here for that hearing?
Sure, we have Tom, from our representative from LEC Environmental, and let me get his work up and running. And we have Michael Solomon, who I just lost. And
His hand
there
is
he is.
up.
Okay, yep. And I'll turn his, make him aware. Michael's on. Anyone else on?
Anybody hear me?
Yeah, Mike.
Okay, perfect.
Is
He's available, yeah.
is Giovanni Federa here? Isn't that also he on this one?
So Giovanni Federa couldn't make it today. So if you have any questions, I could try my best to answer them. If I can't answer them, then
Okay. All right. So shall I read the big blurb? You need to do that. Continue the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by LLC Frank Lanzillo pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act. The applicant proposes construction of a new single-family dwelling on a vacant lot. New improvements also include a driveway and utilities. All work is within 100 feet of a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under Current Project Assessors Map 51, Lot 95, next to 1261 Main Street, DEP file number 270-0748. That's the same file number as the one up above. We've run into this before. So we need to fix that file number or the other file number, one of the two.
Okay, I'll get the file number and we'll let Tom talk about the project. Tom, do you, are you going to put up some of the plans or do you need me to do that?
I could try, but it might be better if you did, if you probably have had more success than me, but
Sure, I have.
my screen seems a little fuzzy. I don't know why, but.
What would you want to start with, the sketch or the?
Well, they have a revised plan. I think it shows everything on there.
Site plan?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Okay. I was having a little trouble making sure I had the right site plan. I went over this a few times. I think I got it. So hold on one second.
Yeah, the one I have says revised 9/16. And it's the one you have up there. So.
Yeah, 916 right here. Okay, we're good.
Okay, we went out on an initial review, as you know, and we sent in a report making recommendations. that the BVW and the IVW boundaries be adjusted in places that we noted. We hung flags in the field, took some data, vegetation, soil, and hydrology data on the BVW just to document that. And the extensions that we recommended were then picked up by Pandera Engineering, and that's what's shown on this plan. In my opinion, they've got everything correct. Based on the revised plan that's before you, all the resource areas, both the IVW and BVW, are in conformance with the WPA and the Reading bylaw and regulation as they are revised here.
Okay. And it looks to me like the 25-foot line and the 35-foot line overlap your construction area considerably. Do you have any input on plans to address that?
Is that a question for Michael?
Yeah, the
Oh,
applicant.
okay, I'm sorry about that. Yes, so we were planning on just replicating the wetlands. We weren't planning on challenging anything. I spoke to Gio and he said he thinks it's possible to replicate them. Won't be that big of an issue.
Okay.
I had trouble hearing him. Can you just repeat that answer, please?
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure Giovanni spoke with Chuck, but Gio is planning on replicating the wetlands. I believe that in the back, if you scroll up, there's dry land back there. So I think he was planning on replicating them back there.
Okay. So the plan is to leave the house design the way it is and remove some of the wetlands down below and use some of the available dry land that's in the 35-foot zone at the back of the property to replicate the wetland.
Was of redesigning it or doing a plan for the wetlands. So we just couldn't get it. We didn't get it in time for this meeting.
Okay. So is the best thing to do to continue to a future meeting when Giovanni will have had a chance to develop a plan? Oh, Anika has her hand up.
No, that's a go. I'll come in after your question.
Okay, well, I think I'm done with my question. Should we continue or should we have any more chance to discuss it today before he comes up with his plan?
I think there's definitely an opportunity for the commission to discuss a little bit of Tom's work and what he found out in the field and to understand these wetlands first. And I was wondering what wetland, maybe Michael knows, what is it, the C series that they were gonna, I mean, it makes sense to replicate the C series, but is that over 2,000 square feet that you would have to double?
So yes, the C series is the area we are planning on replicating. I spoke with Gio. I think it's roughly around 3,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Is the minimum requirement 2,000 square feet? Is that what it is?
No, it's a 2-to-1 replacement that is required under the bylaw.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're,
So we have to replicate the 6,000 square feet approximately.
if you're going to take away 3,000 square feet, you have to replicate. And and the other thing about this, it's not by right. It's something the commission has to consider. And I don't know if the chair wants to talk about the requirements of the vice chair that we would be looking for. I can't see the screen.
Nika.
Hi, thank you. Anika Scanlon, Chair. You know, besides the significant amount of replication, which is hard to do technically, it can be done, but it's technically very challenging to do successfully. There's a secondary issue of keeping structures out of the 35-foot zone, including the buildings and the driveway. So that's another piece of this that needs to be revised.
Well, I believe that we are outside the 30-foot, 35-foot zone on the back of the rear of the house. I think the only issue with the wetlands is the C-series. And if we could bring that back and replicate it to the back, I believe that we would meet the 35-foot setback requirement.
So what do you, can you clarify that a little bit? I mean, right now I see on the plan just past the entrance, yeah, the C-series, C5, C2 through C5 create that 35-foot setback, that the no build that impinges on the proposed house. So that's, so what exactly are you actually
Okay, so
proposing to fill the area between the C series and the WF series?
okay, so not the
What are you saying?
not the entire C series. You see how top is C7 and C8 or towards the back?
Can you zoom in on it?
I see 5 right there. Hold on, I'll zoom in.
Thank you. Yeah, if you don't mind, Chuck, just kind of helping.
Yeah, so
Is that
so
good?
yeah, so this part of the C series, not the other part of the C series. So it would just be this this kind of half moon. If you look at the original line where the wetland flags was, wetland flag 4A, you can see the 36.2, 36.1, and 37.1. Those are all meeting the 35-foot setback. So we would be proposing that we would bring them back to there and replicate the rest of it, or whatever we need to replicate.
So my question is, you know, the flags were originally 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A, and those were found after review to be not accurate, and they were moved to the C series. So in effect, the 6A, 4A, 3A, 2A series, those can just sort of be ignored as untrue wetland lines.
Correct.
Because they're not accurate, right? So the actual resource delineation is the C series flag. That's the true wetland line. And so if you're proposing to fill wetlands, that's what it sounds like you're proposing to do. I just want to clarify.
Yes.
That if you're proposing to do work and to fill to the right of the C series flag.
Correct.
How does that work? How is that work going to meet the performance standards?
Can I just jump in right here?
Yeah.
In our discussion, when I was discussing with the vice chair, I think that's where we wanted to not get into tonight, because one of Martha's questions, and I don't know why, Martha, do you want to say? I'll just say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Martha's going to, we were going to ask to, you know, get us the plan, but cite in the regulations and the WPA where it allows this project. And so you would, you know, tell us to turn to whatever, you would cite the section, and then you would give your reason why you meet that performance standard. Okay, so obviously you're talking about filling 5,000 square foot, blah, blah, blah. You have to cite all the sections that allow this project. So that's one of the things that we're asking you to come back with, our regulations and in the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay.
Thank you, Chuck. The only other thing I'm going to say is variance, the old 35-foot line that's not in thick blue, it still has, it encroaches onto, I'm not sure if that's an erosion control line on the right. Is that what it is, Chuck? Because I'm trying to figure out from the plan what's
I talked to Giovanni, and that's an erosion control line. We're going to find out that the 35-foot has no structure in it, but it may have temporary or permanent alteration in it. So that's something to, consider. But the old line that they came in originally, the developed area met the regulations because it stayed out of the 35-foot area. I can pan around if you want. You have to look at this line, these two lines here.
Yeah. Okay.
Come back. These meet each other and then diverge right here.
Okay, so we're asking the applicant to come back with a plan of how they're going to meet the performance standards and specifically name the regulations that they are applying under that allows them to fill the wetland and replicate it in the back, meeting the 2-to-1 ratio. And I'm just gonna say the less wetland you have to fill and replicate, the better as far as I'm concerned. So, if you don't really need all 3,000 square, that would be preferable. I don't know if that's inappropriate for me to say that, but, I think and there are specific rules about where that replicated wetland has to be that you'll also need to meet when you're planning how to replicate the wetland. All right, is there anything else we need to talk about?
Yeah, I just wanted to get on the record from Tom. I wanted to know, about this wetland. I wanted to know if it was pristine, if it was marginal, what he found out there, what his thoughts are as far as the area. I was just going to ask him if he looked at the area where, we don't have anything on a plan, but that the proposed new wetland was going to go to and be recreated.
You wanted me to address where they're planning to replicate?
Yes,
Location?
I mean, that's an
Do you know where
upland
that
area.
is?
Sure, it's right. It seems to be right here.
You're not sharing your screen at the moment.
Oh, so okay. Seems to be, I guess, between WF1B and WF11B, and on the other side. I mean, I'm just trying to.
In the IVW?
Yeah. No. Where's my? Can you see where my cursor is going? This is dry area. I mean, we have wetland flags on this side and wetland flags on this side. This is where I'm assuming
I see your cursor.
it's going somewhere in this area.
between the BVW and the IVW.
Yeah.
And your question again, what is that area like?
What is that? Yeah, what's in that area? Do you feel like, since you've looked at the C-Series wetland, this is a good location to replicate it? I know I'm putting you on the spot. You might have not even gone in this area.
I did. I didn't look at it in detail because I knew it wasn't of as great importance, but I did do a lot of probes all the way along the boundary and also along the boundary of the IVW. It's a little different than the front part. The soils in the front part had quite a bit of organic material on the surface. And there were, in terms of wetness, we'll say a little wetter than the area you're pointing to in the back, or the BVW area in the back that you were adjacent to. The soils are sandy. And so, getting the proper hydrology or water table there would mean digging down to the elevation of the existing wetland or below that in order to get sufficient hydrology for the replicated wetland. I think I could say that much. As far as appropriate, I mean, it makes sense for what they're proposing with the development, but if you're going to be replicating in kind, then they would really should take a look at that other wetland area and realize that they have to replicate that, which is going to involve a little more organic material, which I would imagine they're going to propose taking the soils from that site and moving them to the back as the final cover. That would be the advisable thing to do. But that's a lot of material movement, a lot of tree clearing and stuff to get machines in there to do that. I guess that's all I could say right now. Is that enough?
Yeah. Let's see if any of the commission has any questions about that or about any of the wetland areas. My last question would be, would you characterize, so this upper wetland area with the organic soil, and this is the sandy soil area?
Well, it's where's your
here?
cursor? Yes, right. Yep.
Back here. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions from any members? I see Brian has his hand up.
Yeah, I do have a question. It's minor compared to what you just talked about, but in the last conversation we had with Giovanni, one of the things we talked about was the abutter on the corner of Nelson and Main Street being concerned about standing water in his backyard, having a place to go. And Giovanni had said that he would put a culvert of some sort in there. So just given where this wetlands is going to be filled in, I just want to point out now, rather than waiting to the plan, that when he's doing the plan, to be very careful to work that in there as well, because it would seem like from a quick glance, that's going to be a more delicate balance, a more delicate grading, to be sure that the water flows through this culvert he's going to put in and doesn't back up into the yards on Nelson Ave.
I can comment on that. Me and Giovanni were throwing up the idea of, because that was an issue that we were discussing, put in the system or even more crushed stone under the driveway. So utilize the driveway under the driveway as the system as well, so it wouldn't pool up in the corner lots backyard. And that's something that Giovanni was designing. I think he's still in the works of designing, so you'll have to refer to him next meeting.
No, that's fine. I don't intend that it gets designed here. I just wanted to be sure that he took that into consideration when he was doing the next plan, so he wouldn't have to then do another iteration based on that. So just trying to.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Just
that's
to
it.
clarify, when you say you're putting the system under the driveway, you mean the infiltration system?
Correct. No.
Okay.
Yes.
Brian, are you all set?
Yeah, that's it. I just will look forward to seeing how that actually is intended to work, but thank you.
Okay. Nika?
Thanks. I was wondering if the applicant can provide us, if they haven't already, with the field data sheets.
They are,
They were filed with our report.
yeah, I had those. I can put those on the screen if you want.
No, if you could just distribute it, because I'm looking for them in the notice of intent. I'm not seeing them.
Okay, no, we got those field data sheets.
They're not on the town website posting.
No, this wasn't updated with this new material.
Okay,
It will be updated when we get the new plan, probably by the 27th. And I was also going to ask Michael, so we need that information by the 20th. So can you provide that information to the Conservation Commission at that date? Because there's going to be review for that, and our requirement is that it comes in for distribution, which would be by the 21st. So
Okay, I apologize. What would you be looking for?
any of the updated documents that we're requesting tonight needs to be delivered to the Conservation Office by the 20th.
Oh, for the 27th meeting.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. I'll have to double check with Gio to make sure that's enough time. But I think it should be.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion from members of the commission or the public? Okay.
All right.
Chuck, would it be okay for me to just have Gio reach out to you and you can kind of let him know?
Yes, he can
what
give me a
exactly
call
what he
or
needs.
send me an email in the morning. Yeah,
Perfect.
that'd be
Thank
fine.
you.
And I'd like to actually talk to him about this a little bit. I think when you look at this quickly, let's just get that problem out of our way. So we want to move 3,000 feet of wetland, the wetland area in the C series. But there might be a way for him to kind of look at that again, and also make some changes to the driveway or to the structure, and remove less, which ultimately
Absolutely.
would be better for the commission. We'd also like to know, because it matters, how many trees are coming down for the replication area.
Okay, perfect. I do have a question. Do we have to involve the tree warden in this on this project?
The tree warden is his area of jurisdiction is on the side of the road. So if there are trees by the road that you want to take down, you should check with the tree warden. But outside of that, you don't have to worry about that because it's not a public street that you're creating either.
Yeah, Gio had a concern about the trees kind of close to the road. So
the tree warden's really good at getting right out there and checking. So if you contact, I actually think that you're on the state highway where you're at. I'm not sure. You might want to check into that. And he's not going to make a call on those trees at that point. First call is to, the tree warden about that. And if you can't find his number, just, reach out to me.
Oh, I got this. Yeah.
I just want to comment that I did mention to the tree warden that there is a tree at the southern corner of your property. It's got an orange sign stuck to it by somebody, and it's got a whole bunch of carpenter ant frass in a pile in front of it. So that tree is in very poor shape, but the tree warden told me that's on state highway property and not his jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So you'll want to take a good look at that tree when you're figuring out what you're doing.
Understood.
And it sounds like you have to call the state.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Any other comments or questions? Okay.
Anything to add, Tom? Have we,
No, in terms of the delineation, I'll just ask you, kind of on a different note. I'm leaving on vacation at the end of the week for a couple of weeks, and I jotted down the hearing date coming up. I'm going to still be on vacation. I'll do my best to zoom in if you need me for either of these hearings. Maybe we can talk on the phone and about that. But if we're done with as far as the delineation part of this project, I guess there'd be no need for me to come back.
for this project, no, but for 1310,
Right.
I think that's right in your vacation. And I would say that it wasn't a big issue based on the original wetland line, but the IVW and the six potential vernal pools seems to be something that the commission would want to discuss. I'm not sure where that project is. Maybe we could reach out to the applicant and request a continuance until for one more meeting. But I believe that, you know, your input on those things would be valuable.
Okay, well, if necessary, I can take some files with me and zoom in that evening from someplace, but it's going to be, I've got to find a public location, so I don't know how good that is, but we can talk about it.
Okay. All right, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Good to be with you tonight.
Same. All right, so we're going to continue this until, I mean, that was one of the questions. Michael, do you think you can make that distribution date of the 20th?
I think we can. I think he was pretty close to making this date.
Okay.
Or the previous date. So I want to say yes. If he can,
that's fine.
I can have him send you an email and.
Yeah, we don't need absolutes. It sounds like you're close. So let's continue this to the 27th. And if you can't make it, please request a continuance to the first meeting in November.
Will do. Thank you, Chuck.
Yep.
So can I have a motion to continue this to October 27th?
Move to continue the hearing on Lot A Main Street, next to 1261 Main Street until our meeting on the 27th.
I'll second that.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, we're moving on to 445 Pearl Street. And
I think Jack is here. Jack Reed.
okay.
Jack Rivers, sorry. I don't know if anyone else is here, but so I'm gonna just allow him to speak at this moment and let us know if anyone else in your party is here, Jack.
Yeah.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good.
Yeah, I guess I'm it. So did you receive some plans from the engineer?
We did. Let me put
Hold
those
on a
up.
second. Chuck, should I read the blurb first?
Oh yeah, let's get started, and I'll put the plans up as that happens.
Okay. 445 Pearl Street enforcement order continued. The homeowner of 445 Pearl Street is subject to an enforcement order issued by the Reading Conservation Commission in 2021. According to the enforcement order, the homeowner, Mr. Rivers, had done work to manage the stream flow. As a result, fill was placed along the southern portion of the stream, which diverted the flow toward the northern bank. This resulted in the undercutting and destabilization of approximately 50 feet of the northern portion of the stream bank. A restoration plan and narrative outlining the approach to restabilizing the original stream location and stabilizing the bank have been presented to the Conservation Commission for review. All work is within 100 feet of an intermittent stream, LUW, and bank. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under Current Project Assessors Map 46, Lot 14. Thank you. Okay. All right. So can you put the restoration plan up, Chuck?
I can. I just wanted to get the other part ready. Okay, here we go. Okay, there you are.
Okay. And Mr. Rivers, do you have any comments you want to make about this plan?
Well, actually, I think that we had discussed all of it in the, you do have a revised modification with some amendments that have been delivered already.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that was discussed, there was some concerns, and I'm available to answer any of the questions. But one of the conversations was relative to that pipe in front of the house that feeds over towards the to the north towards the brook, and originally that pipe was there originally. And my son was going to be doing some modification there. So, but that was picking up, that actually picks up the driveway, or will pick up the driveway, and also the roof drains, which would represent, I believe, a quarter of the roof area. And also I had discussed with my son we could put in a dry well at the end of that. Pipe, the drain in the driveway, surface drainway in the driveway, once that fills up the dry well, it would surcharge and allow for a much softer flow, de-energize the flow coming from a heavy storm or something, because it would sheet it out over at the edge of the driveway. Other than that, and I submit that as you know, in an effort to help. If it doesn't help, then I bow to the commission.
Does anybody on the commission have comments on the suggestion of a dry well to deal with that pipe?
I think that's a great idea. If it can be incorporated into this project, it sounds. Where would it be located, Jack?
Well, it would be right at the end point of the edge of the driveway.
So the driveway was here somewhere.
I could place it in the driveway at the corner if that would be preferable. But the outlet drain would want to be in the middle of the driveway. Okay, in the center of that section of the house. The center of the driveway. Now there you're going to get the surcharging would build up and sheet out after the initial, depending on the size of the driveway. There was also discussion that my son said he could put in some storage tank for irrigation in that and incorporate that. Ergo, it would increase the detention volume by however much he would put in that section, but in the dry, right under the dry. So we're not going to be creating anything beyond the driveway.
So are you talking about a rain barrel that would be sitting at the corner of the house, or actually a storage tank buried underground? Okay.
You know,
Brian has his hand up.
Yeah. So this pipe situation in general, a number of different thoughts, questions. First of all, you're kind of talking off the cuff about a number of different approaches that might be taken. So my first question is a two-parter, which is, when do you think these remedies would be in place? And what happens in the meantime with this flow that's going down towards the stream? I know in the text, Thor talks about additional erosion control for to extend that somewhat, but will that actually handle the amount of rain that you would expect to come off of the roof, that whole dripping front edge of the house that runs between the driveway ending in the house, you know, the garage itself?
Well, if we took 1/4 of the area of the house and then that would be times whatever storm event we're talking about. Now, I don't know, what is a 100-year storm at this point? Do we have a number, a volume?
I don't know offhand.
Whatever it is, anyhow.
Like 675.
Huh?
675.
675. Okay, it hasn't changed much, so just depending on the number of units, it would be a plus for my son, because he would take advantage of the irrigation potential in that, which serves all concerned, and it would be drawn from a pipe that would be in the lower part of the plastic irrigation under the driveway. I mean, that can be actually anywhere. I was just thinking that have it at the closer to the thing. We can put it over on the other side of the driveway. We can put it in the middle of the driveway and run that at that point.
So if I can jump back in here.
I'm simply offering suggestions that may please the commission. If somebody doesn't feel that this is constructive, then, you know,
So Jack, so again, you're talking about some possibilities and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, at least from my perspective, I would like to see a more fully fleshed out plan for which of the options you would actually take, and to figure out some calculations. I don't have a good sense of what you would be irrigating, how much water that would take to irrigate, how much water would still end up flowing into stream. I mean, at this point, it's kind of all off the cuff, right? So from my perspective, I'd like to see something more fully thought out, more formal.
Yes, I suggest this as a condition of you know, that would be incorporated in your order, whatever is finalized. So far as the time frame, I'm thinking of doing that consistent with the project. So put it in as a you know, something we have to do.
Okay, so one last point. So you're saying it couldn't be a condition? I get it. Fine. My point still is, we wouldn't even know what details to put in there for a condition.
And I can
until
supply that.
the thought would be about how this is going to be handled more formally.
I can do that.
Okay,
I
so
can supply
in that case,
supply a detailed plan showing how it would be constructed, where the pipe would go, so it'd be away from, on the other side of the stairs probably is the appropriate, the front door stairs.
sure. I mean, whatever you think it will achieve the purposes, fine, get it drawn up and submit it to us, and then we can review it in the fullness of time, as they say.
My intention.
On that note, Martha, I'm all set. Thanks.
Okay, and I wanted to move on to Joe because he's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah, wait, hold on, I gotta lower it now. All right. Yeah, so actually, a lot of what I wanted to say is what Brian ended up saying at the end, which is that rather than trying to design this by committee, I think the best thing for everyone is just to come back with a plan, with a single proposal that we can, give a thumbs up to, rather than designing here in the meeting. I'm curious about how these changes potentially affect the schedule that we talked about.
They would not. They would go consistent with it. They can be done at the same time. So it's not. It's not a. It shouldn't add much, if any, time to the schedule of it. Also, the pictures that I had sent over, I decided to do a full better control to see where we are. The engineers did, and I had them send the pictures in the northeast corner of the property, and where the neighbor, the abutter on Lucy Drive, I believe, cut a path through about 10 feet wide, varying from variable width, going from maybe 5-6 feet to 10 feet, and it runs what he evidently thought was his property line. But the thing is, he encroaches, trespasses onto our lot, and with that 10-foot wide area. So, and the stakes are in the field now, and you can stand on where the pictures were taken from, on the backyard of Michael's house, at the right in front of the wood pile. If you stand right there, you can look right straight up his property line, and so there are stakes on all the points on the and there's pins in there, set flags and pins. So that you can. There's another picture with that. You can't really see where we are. Can we reduce it so we can get a broader picture?
So all this cutting happened after we were there doing our site visit?
No, this happened in, I believe, mid-July, the 14th or 15th of July. The pictures were taken. And they had a dispute. when the Lucy Drive owner came down and he cut the path through. I guess he got a little machine, a little golf cart or something, some machine, some to travel down, and it's a long ways. And he went into the wetlands, and there's clear evidence of the trees that are cut, and they're laying there along the edge of the property at the property line. Actually, on both sides of the property line. Evidently the brush and smaller cuttings that were in the wetlands are in fact that wall of brush that's up on Michael's land, because they had a dispute, trees went back. And in the other picture, it shows the chair, and Joe had mentioned in the last meeting that anyhow, those two chairs, and there's also a table in there, a white table, okay. And if it were legible, you would see these are the two chairs, and they're holding in back. And this is a table here, and it says no trespassing, no dumping, no whatever. Can you can probably read it better in your.
I actually can. I think Chuck is sharing a screen. I can't actually read it.
Okay, so
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I did have a question about the other picture. I'm trying to make sure I understand where that picture was taken.
From Michael's yard, in front, on his side of the wood pile, the existing wood pile now. Up his yard, 6 to 10 feet wide, variable width.
Okay, and this is north, or because the stream exits out the back of the yard. I'm looking at the map I'm looking at the plan, just the restoration plan document on my screen here, and trying to picture, is that picture taken from standing north of the stream looking north?
It's from the south, near the south corner of about 10 feet up from the property, about 20 feet up from the property line, from Michael's the joint property line, and that looking straight up what he thought was his property line, but he clipped off, probably around 12 feet of at the corner. I couldn't get over there. I couldn't jump over the brook.
All right, I think we've heard enough about that, and we'll have to figure out what we do about 15 Lucy Drive and their tree cutting, but maybe that's a separate enforcement order question.
I have no axe to grind in the thing. It's just I don't feel that I can remove those table and chairs, and they didn't come in over Michael's property. They came in from the north.
Okay, and is it the other people who live on Lucy Drive who wrote no trespassing on it, or did Michael write no trespassing?
Michael wouldn't write. I mean, there's no reason for Michael to say no pass, for him to tell himself to no trespass.
Okay.
It was over there as a statement. Now, I mean, logically, it doesn't make any sense for Michael to do it.
Okay. So. All right, because that certainly we did not see that when we were there doing the site visit.
Yeah, well, of course, vegetation and whatnot, but today you can look right up that line, and I can't see his house, but I can see probably a couple of 200 feet or 300 feet, I don't know how long that
Okay.
land is. It's a
All
very
right.
long, deep lot.
Are there any commissioners with other comments about the paperwork we got describing the reparations that were going to be done about the stream bank, the extra section in the back and things like that? Any comments from anyone?
I was actually, oh, sorry. I never got to finish, I'm afraid. So that's why I didn't raise my hand again. But I was just going to say that the while we're on the subject of revising the plan to include, presumably to include some of the water, the irrigation containers that Jack described and so forth, I would definitely appreciate the approximate location of additional willow staking area to be the actual location. If we could get just a little more precision on that, I would appreciate having that detail as well. Thanks.
I can certainly have a sketch done up relative to the potential detention area, the irrigation system and how it would flow. There'll be some modification of the driveway, you know, and he should do it anyhow because it's got a dip in it and it's a pain in the neck. But I can quantify the flood. I mean, you know, we're not going to be able. I don't think we're going to be able to, you know, handle a 100-year flood on a quarter of the house. You know, so it is going to surcharge. You know, whatever volume we have there is going to surcharge, and through the summertime, it's going to be used for irrigation, so that's going to draw down on it. Otherwise, it rejoins the groundwater regime. You know, a storm, you know, come in that
Okay.
surcharge.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay,
Is
my pleasure.
anybody else who has comments that did not get a chance to speak? Is there a hand up that I can't see? Okay.
Can you
I'm on
see
the
Anika's
phone.
hand?
Martha.
Nika has her hand up. Okay, Nika.
This goes a couple meetings back, I think, and it's not for Jack, it's more for Thor Ackerley, and that is, you know, if he hasn't already, although maybe now that I try to remember, I think he may have mentioned it. If he hasn't already, it would be really beneficial to get some sort of written description or some sort of profile schematic that explains how much excavation is going to actually happen inside of, how deep is the excavation going to go inside of the stream bed. You know, they're rebuilding the stream bed, rebuilding the wall, the bank, and we have a profile. We have the bank stabilization with coconut coir logs and tublings detail on the site plan, and it just says that they're going to excavate into the stream bank. I want to know how deep the bottom of that excavation goes. But Jack, I'm assuming you may not have that information. It's just a question for Thor.
Well, the principle is what I look at. You're going to have a wash stone, a round stones, beach stone, whatever you call it.
Right. No, I understand we're going to excavate and we're going to remove, but I just want to get a real three-dimensional understanding of the minimum depth that is going to be excavated and the maximum depth that's going to be excavated there.
You know, I have to follow the rules in the way it is and as it should be. The
But those are not
engineer-
specified, Jack, and I'm just looking for details.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
If I were allowed to do it myself, looking at the objectives, and that's my approach always. You look at the objective and try and meet it as economically and as effective as you can, I put economically first because it does cost significant. But I would put in a couple of 2 or 3 pipes underneath as an underdrain, going beyond the coconut coil on the end that goes across the end of the brook. It's laid out on the plan. So you have the coil logs going on either side of the brook, and one goes across the end. So which is an effort to minimize any carry off of sedimentation that get washed through. So that acts as effective on that. But if you took the water that was coming through underneath, and I would put a bucket of stone in the end of that. This is all underneath, and run that through underneath that last coil. Okay, without any modification on the other side of it, other than to free it. So it's gonna, you're gonna have a constant. If you're in three pipes, it would give a low discharge on that. But that's, I lost you.
Yeah.
Nika.
Okay, so Jack, I think this question and the answer to this question should go in the same place as the please give us a better design of the irrigation containers under the driveway. Rather than trying to answer that, and we'll continue this meeting to the next meeting. Chuck, can you unmute yourself?
I can. I'm just gonna, so this is a stream bank restoration project. Jack is offering to put in infiltration in his driveway. It's not something that this is part of the enforcement order. I just wanted to make that clear. And it's just kind of a voluntary thing. So if he says, you know what, I don't want to do it now. We're not really asking him to do this. It's not part of the enforcement. It's more about cleaning the stream bank. So I only wanted to make that clear.
If I may, am I still on?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. I would certainly make that a formal proposal with the reasonable enforcement order.
Okay.
So, and not call it any part of the thing, but as a solution.
Okay, so we've kind of used up our time for this topic. We've got a lot on our plates today. What is our next step? Do we continue this hearing for another session, or are we ready to close this? I'm asking Chuck or Anika actually what they think.
So I would throw that back to the commission personally to say, do you feel like everything's been covered, and what hasn't been covered can be handled in with conditions that we would add to the enforcement order? I mean, certainly a detailed plan describing how the infiltration system works and the discharge works and what storm event it manages can be something that we receive after the fact. I'm not sure if the commission feels that the rest of the information can be received after the fact. The chair at the end of the property and the survey, I mean, it's up to the commission about that and where they want to go.
Anybody have any thoughts? Mika.
Go ahead, Joe.
So you raised your hand. You go first.
Now
Second
you
time,
beat me
yeah.
to the punch, but go ahead.
Joe.
Okay, well, I'm still a little, I'm honestly fuzzy, and it sounds like I'm not the only one, on what exactly is on each property at the back of the lot. Because as Martha said, I think there needs to be a conversation about 15 Lucy Lane. Obviously, Jack doesn't need to, that shouldn't be his problem. That shouldn't, obstruct progress on, moving forward with this project on this property. But I'm still a little confused about which, is there debris that needs to be removed that's on this property, or is the plastic furniture on this property? I'm still not sure which property those things are on right now.
Okay. The table and chairs were on his property, and you can tell by the view of the topography, it was over the wetlands. It across the wetlands and put the table and chairs there, the sign. The brush that was there, my son gathered up in the that wall that he put there with the intention to either let it rot into the ground. It's beyond his developed area of his yard and everything. So, but it's clearly on Michael's side. He has no problem getting rid of it. Have it. But anyhow, what else did you want to know? Are they?
I think that answered my question. It sounds like the brush is still on Michael's property, but also the restoration plan that we have in front of us talks about removing the brush. So I think those things fit together. That's good.
Yeah.
It sounds like the plastic furniture is not on Michael's property, and we need to have a conversation with that property owner about it.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Right. That's if that answers your questions.
Okay.
Anika, anything?
Hi. Past in past hearings, past meetings where Thor has responded to questions or comments and said, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to get you that information. I don't know, Chuck, do we need a little bit more time to just go through all of those lists and just make sure we have all the information we originally asked for? I've lost track. That's all.
So I would say that this is an enforcement order, and it can be updated, daily, hourly. The commission is in charge. If you put a list together and Jack agrees tonight that, Thor can, get us that information, then, once you compile the list, then that seems fine. Now, I talked to Thor this afternoon, and he said the narrative that he sent out has been updated to address the issues that were brought up at the last meeting. He apologized for not being here. He said that another town is doing a in-person meeting, and there's obviously an adjustment to now going back to in-person meetings. So he understood there was a possibility that this wouldn't be finalized tonight. So he said he could come back, but we are kind of in the back of my head is we're there. We're not really talking about the bank and the stream and where we're at, and we're into the final days of the planting season. And I believe that I asked Thor that, how long this is going to take, and he said Jack thought it would be somewhere around 2 weeks. So this is still something that can happen. I sent the plans to the engineering department. I received no comment. I don't think they have an issue. I think that I've mentioned it many times to them, and I haven't heard anything back. I think as long as the water flows, I think they're going to be fine. I mean.
Okay. Thanks.
So I'm just trying to figure out what we need to do to wrap this up tonight. Can we close this and give approval for getting a move on the plan as we received it a week ago? Or are there things that we absolutely need to know before he can start doing the stream bank restoration? Any thoughts on that?
I have one thought, which is that the revised restoration plan does propose an additional erosion control barrier, which I was happy to see.
Mm-hmm.
After that, tonight, Jack talked about a variety of other things that could happen with water coming that way. And I just want to confirm that the additional erosion control barrier in the most recent restoration plan we've seen is in fact part of the plan that we would be approving right now.
That makes sense to me.
There's an existing silt sock, and then in the latest plan, there's a plan to add one that is not currently there.
Yeah. Okay. I think what I'd like to see is a motion to accept the revised plan, and anything else that Jack has suggested tonight would be sort of a different topic and could be dealt with later, but he can get started on the actual stream bank restoration if we approve it tonight. Chuck, do you think that's a good way to go, or am I off base?
I think that we should approve this with two additional things. I mean, I think that the erosion, making sure the erosion control is up to date. You know, having Thor verify the erosion control, the new plan that they're going to be following is up to date, providing a construction schedule, and then I think is necessary.
Okay.
And with that, I would feel comfortable to allow them to proceed myself. I would feel comfortable with that.
Right. Is there a member of the commission that would like to make a motion?
Just in response to Chuck's last thing, there is a section on monitoring in the latest plan. Is that what you were looking for, Chuck? Or are we asking for something in addition?
On what? Excuse me?
On page 4 of the revised restoration narrative, there is a section on monitoring.
And that's, yes.
Yeah.
So I knew that I just wanted to make sure that those are in the record, that we're going to ask, you know, we don't want Jack to and whoever to go out there and get this done and Williams and Sparagis check it out when it's finished. It's better to be there when the work is happening in the resource area. So I think I can bring up that if anyone wants to see it, or if you want to just continue, either one is fine.
I don't think I wasn't suggesting continuing, because it sounds like there's something to be said here for given the go ahead to start the restoration work now, so it happens this season.
Sure, my mistake when words. I meant to continue the conversation, but
continue the conversation. Not
take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. So on that note, I would make a motion that we accept the revised restoration plan in its current form as of this date.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. So they can get started with the work that is on the restoration plan, and if they want to do any additional work that was discussed tonight, they should let Chuck know, and he'll get it out to the commission.
Yeah, I've already made an agreement with Thor that we'll be speaking tomorrow. I'll update him on all the notes that I took about what we want him to do. And that construction schedule will help us all understand when it's starting, when it should be finished. All right, Jack.
Thank you very much. And that couple of weeks was predicated on having good weather and not a lot of water flowing full through that pipe. Obviously, we're in an area where we can still have some pretty tough weather. But I would love to see that go in much sooner as later. Finish the thing up and set it on.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
very much.
Okay, the next one is 56 Gray Coach Road. Are the people involved here? It might be Robinson. It's iPhone. iPhone is raising their hand.
Okay. iPhone, you are?
This is Donald Gensler.
Hi, Donald.
How are you doing?
Donald's the contractor for this project. Do you want to take a break and have me prep it? Read the intro?
Sure, go ahead and read the intro.
So 56 Gray Coach Road, I open the public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by Wendy Robinson under the Massachusetts Protection Act and the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw for removing crushed stone base and installing a poured slab underneath the existing porch, and then enclosing the existing 21 by 16 foot deck above this area to create a screened room. And then next to this, build a new 16 by 18 foot composite deck as shown on the plan, which was provided in the distribution. The plans and application can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under current projects. Hi, Don.
No, I was just going to do what you suggested about the new plot plan.
Sure. So let's bring the rest of the commissioners up to date. Let me get the plan. That probably would be best. Here it is. Okay. All right, so this is 56 Gray Coach Lane, and this plan, the red section on the plan is the proposed new deck, and next to it is the existing deck that the work will happen underneath, which is excavation, I believe new footings, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, Don, and then cement poured floor. And what the commission doesn't know is when we reviewed this project during the week, it was discovered that there is a line. There's a line as shown on the GIS that puts the project and the existing deck right through a drainage easement. And after talking to the after talking to the town engineer, he felt like it was best to have the applicant discuss this issue with him, and they're going to ask for a surveyed plan showing the easement, and they want the applicant to prove that the easement does not encroach in their project. The reason why it's kind of going towards the engineering department is because they would not allow not only the existing deck in the easement, but the new deck in the easement. So I'm not sure what's gonna, since the one deck is already built, I'm not sure what's gonna happen with that. That's up to the engineering department. But when that approval comes in and we get a memo from Ryan Percival, we can proceed.
Okay. So we can't make a decision about this tonight, but are there any other questions any members of the commission have that should be addressed in the new plan other than the easement? Are there other things that people have concerns about? Did anybody, oh, okay, Brian, but also if anybody went out to see the property, that would be good to know as well. So Brian, your turn.
Okay, I did go out there today, had a good conversation. I was surprised by how close the border and vegetation is to the house, although you look at the GIS, what have you, and the wetlands themselves do seem further back. My question is really about this drawing. It's not the clearest drawing, so I went to the drawing for a previous project at the house next door, which is clearer to follow the line. And so that blurry line that runs through the top right-hand corner of the proposed deck, that's the 35-foot no structure line, right? So if that's true, I would think that's an issue. Am I missing something? I'll now leave it open to other people to discuss.
Yeah, if that line is accurate and the position of the deck is accurate, you're absolutely right, Brian, that it looks like the deck would overlap into the 35-foot zone. Joe, you had a question.
Yes, I will just add to that you said if that line is accurate, the deck could overlap. I would add that if that line is inaccurate, the deck could overlap more. I'm curious about the I don't know, provenance of the wetland line that we're working from here. Is that something that has been previously approved?
If you look at the other, it's a little bit more of a close-up view. Do you have that one available, Chuck?
I'm not sure I do. If it's in here, there you
That's
go.
the one. Yeah. And you can see the flags along the back edge labeled A9, A10, A8. So those are confirmed flagged wetland lines that we can draw the 25 and the 35-foot line off of. So I don't think they need to have the wetland delineated again. If I am wrong, let me know.
Yeah, and am I off mute? Yeah, so I'll add to this that this project came in. There were 3 houses in this area. This was one of them, and the owners that lived there had just listened to so there was a guy cutting trees across the street, and they worked out a deal. And the guy said since he was there, he could cut all the trees in the back, and these property owners agreed to that. Well, they didn't have a permit to do that, and they had to do this restoration plan. So we worked very closely with Tom Hughes, who delineated the wetlands. So this wetland was approved by not this sitting commission, but the last sitting commission. So it wasn't so long ago, and it was reviewed stringently. So I know that the Jack Sullivan plan, which this might be some part of, is accurate as far as the wetland line goes. The engineering department was pulled that plan up and said that they want Jack to put the easement line on that plan. So I think that's what Don's attempting to do, is to reach out to Jack Sullivan, who has the original plan, and to get the rest of the information on it, and then also draw in the deck and the proposed work.
Correct.
Okay.
So
go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, so the good news and the bad news are that we have a high degree of confidence with this 35-foot line here. Okay, that's good to know. I'm a little I'm kind of curious about and maybe this is easier to see if I'd actually seen it. I could picture having the construction entrance on the, so it's nice that the construction entrance is on the side further from the, keeps it further from the wetland. I'm curious if the construction needs to go around the existing deck to work on the new deck. Though again, maybe this question is premature because we have to figure out things like the drainage easement, and my question might be moot. So
that's a driveway underneath the construction easement.
Yep.
So it's probably the best placed for it.
Yep. It's just a question of do they need to go around? Because again, we are awfully close to the wetland here. So are they going to need to effectively go around the?
It's all close, yeah, and part of that's going to be lawn, and it's a vegetated buffer up to the 25-foot line, and part of that's going to be lawn. So that erosion control line typically goes as far back as the contractor or applicant think they need, but obviously it doesn't go into the wetland, and it doesn't go beyond what that someone's going to be walking around the outside of that to bring over material, and. It's not that big a deck. It's, 16 by, I guess, 18. The other thing you brought up is the easement. Oh, no, the 35-foot line and the easement. I just want to let you know that the engineering department did spend some time looking through all their plans. And I think at the end of the day, they thought that there was a good possibility that the easement represents the 100-foot flood zone, which is several feet, 5, 10 below where the actual easement is onto the town's GIS. So they do think that just for the survey plan, it may come out in the favor of the applicant. The other thing that I want to mention, and we do work a lot with homeowners and contractors that don't have professional help, in the office. And so one of the things that I always let them know is that when you're encroaching over request, and that typically in the past, the commission has approved. There was one project that got it right down into the 25-foot area. But they offered a significant amount of mitigation for that project. But usually 2 or 3 feet below the 35-foot line is not unheard of. So something like 32 feet away, 33 feet away, it can be managed. And it also could be managed by like cantilevering portion of the deck, if that's possible. So there's options going on, and we're just not at the point of where this could, this redesigning has to happen. So anyways, I just wanted to bring up those 2 things.
It's all good to know. Thanks. I think I'm all set.
Okay. Any other members of the commission with issues they want to bring up? Nika.
Mute. Let me just unmute. Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. The new composite deck, are you planning to support those with like footings, or are you going to extend the concrete slab?
No, footings.
Okay. I had a question about the setback, but Chuck touched on it. And then the last question is about on the current plan. I know we're looking right now at a past plan, I think. Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah. On the current plan, I'd like to see the limit of work line shown, erosion control line shown.
Okay.
I was assuming that the X's on the erosion control line are a modification of the old plan, and that is the current erosion control. Is that correct?
So I worked with Dawn with this. And again, we place that erosion control as close to the project as possible, allowing the work to happen around it. In most of our orders, we allow the administrator or the commission to request more erosion control or move the erosion control during the project. So all that's available.
Okay.
I don't know if it matters or not, but all this work will be being done by hand too. There's no big machines coming in to dig or anything. Some good old fashioned hard work.
That's good to know, because there's a lot of big machines on the next property over chewing up the ground.
Yeah.
You're not planning to be doing that kind of thing.
No, everything's going to be done, digging by hand, wheelbarrows and.
So Nika was asking if the thing labeled erosion control on this plan is the current erosion control proposal.
Yes.
And I think the answer is yes.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Are there any other members of the commission who had a question or comment on this project?
Okay.
Okay. And I just had one that hasn't been addressed yet. The current deck that's going to be put a slab underneath and screens underneath to make a screen room.
Yeah.
Right now, there are gaps between the deck boards and gravel underneath so that the water can infiltrate the ground underneath. What's going to happen to the water when you put the slab under that falls on top of the deck?
So we were going to install a sealing system that catches the water that goes through the deck and gets put in.
We're losing you, Dawn. It's just breaking up a little bit.
So we're going to be installing a channel ceiling that would allow the water to still fall through the deck, and then it gets brought to the edge of the deck and into a gutter.
Okay, and where does it go once it hits the gutter?
We were going to put not a well, but I guess like a dry well.
You could drive
on the corner.
Okay, so there will be some place for that water to be infiltrated rather than just running across the lawn into the wetland.
Yeah, no, it will go into like crushed stone, into like a 2 foot by 2 foot.
Okay, yeah. I would love to see that in writing, but that is
okay.
The question I was looking for, and that's an answer that I'm happy with. Okay, so I think everyone in the commission has asked all their questions. If there's anyone in the public that has a question, can you use the raise hand feature so that I can see that you are raising your hand? Seeing none. Chuck, did you have any other things that we should address before we are done?
Not about this project. I think that what would be a good plan would be to also continue this to the 27th. And if the applicant hasn't received, which I almost doubt he's going to get a survey plan, but it could happen. If he doesn't have their survey plan, then we'll have to request a continuance to the first meeting in November.
Okay. All right. Are we ready for a motion to continue to the October 27th meeting?
I'll move to continue the hearing on 56 Great Coach Road to the October 27th meeting.
And I will second that.
Nika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Kernahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. Thank you very much. Dawn,
Thank you.
you're coming.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Don.
Our next hearing is 12 Hensey Street. I believe Demetra might be here on behalf of that one.
Yes, Demetra's here.
Okay. And Demetra, is there anyone else here that we should allow into the meeting?
Yeah, my client is here, Michelle. Bordeaux.
Bordeaux? Okay.
And
I saw a thumbs up.
do you control the video? Can I be up?
You
or do
control
I-
it.
Hello.
You can control it, Demetra.
Oh, I might not be able to from my,
Well, that's all right. I'm all set to show the plan. And if you
Okay,
want to show the
that's
plant
cool.
list, just let me know.
oh, what? Okay.
Okay, should I read the blurb before we get going here?
Sure.
12 Hensey Street, open public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by Michelle and Jonathan Bordeaux under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for after-the-fact tree removal of 4 large pine trees and 1 maple tree within 25 feet of the house. The applicants are proposing replacement planting. All the work is within the 100-foot buffer zone. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under Current Project Assessors Map 32, Lot 146, RC file number 2021-11. Okay, Demetra, would you like to introduce the project?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So let's see. Basically, Michelle and Jonathan have a backyard that backs up to conservation property. And between sort of the yard and the conservation wetland, there's a, for lack of a better word, a ditch. And the ditch is pitched roughly along the back of, you know what, I think it's east to west. At any rate, it gathers water and then it gets pretty deep and it sits. And it doesn't really drain as an effective wetland would. So to alleviate that issue of, you know, mosquitoes and just icky, ick, the idea that the clients and I worked out was to embrace what's there, but plant it with plants that can essentially turn this ditch into a really kind of beautiful wetland. So it's an opportunity to plant a lot of native plants. I want to plant all of the plants. So basically the plant list, which, you know, my scribble, it's plants that like to sit in wet feet, but if it drains, when it drains, they can keep on going. So the idea is that we'll add some willows, not weeping willows, but native willows. These are not enormous trees. Clethra, which if you know them maybe by summer sweet, they smell really good when they bloom. Buttonbush, which has a little white flower that looks like a button. The Ilex verticillata, which are the native hollies that drop their leaves but have bright red berries that the birds love. And then red twig dogwood, which are also native. Some of those plants are already there. And so that tells me they will be successful, and some will be, you know, hopefully successful in this very wet to medium wet to not very wet because we've gone up the slope of the ditch. And then to balance all these shrubs and small trees, and nothing here is going to be a big tree. They have a lot of trees there. Would be a variety of perennials, same deal. All of these are native except astilbe. I can't resist astilbe. but trying to get some cattails going in there would be really nice. Variety of ferns, lobelia, aruncus. I can explain all these plants, but they're basically native perennials that like to have their feet wet. And they're tough. They belong here, so they should make it, all of them. That's about it. And I'm happy to answer questions. I'm not sure what else you need to know from me.
Anybody on the commission with questions that wants to start? Okay. I'm not seeing any hands, but I can only see half the commission.
So Carl wants to say something. So
Okay.
I think I'm reading this for the first time, but I asked Carl what he thought of this project. Carl is our landscape designer who's not available tonight. So he said he looked at the project and he believes it was part of the shade for sure. So those shrubs should be fine. I would start to ask the size of the perennials and recommend 1 gallon or smaller. Plugs have a great success rate and root easy. So that was his comments.
Chuck, I'll respond to that.
Sure.
I couldn't agree more. So, and also just from a price point of view, starting with gallons makes sense. If I can find plugs of our native cattails, that's what I plan to use. This is going to have to roll out. Some of this can definitely be done in the fall, but some will have to wait for spring just because of availability of plants.
Mm-hmm. Just to continue my own thoughts was, there's how many trees are being planted, because that's trees were taken down, and there's a like a habitat replacement equation I'm trying to like consider.
Yeah, so I really can't call any of these trees that would ever rival a white pine in height. The salix, they're basically, they get to be, depending, but they can be 20, 25 feet high, but they offer a great deal to birds, good bugs, etc. So there is that. The shrubs are all shrubs. So that there are a variety of red maple back there. They also, this whole neighborhood is overcome by Norway maples, which are you know, a horror. So that's that.
Okay. So I just have a separate question that kind of relates to the trees question. We saw an earlier plan where there was a suggestion of putting in, I think, 4 or 5 trees elsewhere in the yard. Is that superseded by this, or is this in addition to those other plantings we saw at a previous meeting?
This supersedes that, just because we only had a few, and then we realized how many we actually had to replace, you know, for 1 tree taken down. We did look at that equation. So we knew we needed way more than what we were proposing. So this actually, you know, will replace that, except we do still want to plant at the top where the driveway is. It's not here because it's not part of this planting, but we do want to plant, you know, some nice, pretty shrubs there just for more privacy. Those two will happen, but that won't happen until the spring.
Okay, so that would be in the part where you had a tree that was partly taken down and is left about 10 feet tall. So you'd be putting some shrubs up there.
We'll get that, get that finished, taking that down and put the shrubs in. Yeah.
Okay, so you are planning to remove the snag from that tree that was taken halfway down?
Yes.
Okay, and is that somewhere in this proposal that we've received?
That was in the original proposal.
Okay,
The only difference between the original proposal and this is the replacement plantings. So this is the replacement plantings.
okay. So, it looks like there are maybe 3 willows along the stream that you're planning to put in, and the rest is shrubs.
Correct.
Okay,
But I do want to remind you all that the shrubs are all native plants and they offer tremendous to our native songbirds and bugs. So, you know, a lot of people think about shrubs and they think of those green, horrible balls that are planted all around foundations. That's not what we're talking about here. So
right.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, any comments from any members of the commission? Anika.
I'll just, in the silence here, I'll just chime in and say I welcome a project that's all about planting. So, yay.
Hmm.
All right. And in the description, it talked about doing some work regrading the lawn, and I think it was in the B section of the description. I'm wondering about what you're going to do for erosion control when you're regrading the lawn, and also, is there any erosion control needed when you're working in the stream and the stream bank to do all these plantings?
That's a good question. Because the ditch is kind of created with 2 berms, I don't think there's an erosion control issue at all. The one area at the far side of the property, the ditch can overflow sometimes. So that will have, but I don't see it, there's not an erosion issue because we won't make the ditch deeper. The road.
Okay.
I don't know if that's clear. Sorry. It's
So on the plan that we're looking at, where the left side goes out at an acute angle or forms an acute angle, is that the corner of the yard that the ditch overflows and you're planning to regrade that section?
Yeah, sort of from the middle of that backyard toward that far left corner needs to be regraded because the water pools in about 3 different places.
Yeah.
This, where your arrow is right now in that corner, it's very dark because there's a line of Norway maples along the property line between, you know, the two to the neighbor. And so that's a challenging area. The Norways should be removed, but that's for another time.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Chuck, especially? Yeah.
So I was just wondering, you don't mean like wholesale regrading, you're just going to top dress that area?
Oh yeah, we're not wholesale regrading. We're not going to do that. There are some spots that clearly need loam and grass, or, you know, a plant that wants to suck up a lot of water. But even then, it still needs a little regrading. We're not talking about a lot of loam at all.
All right.
I think we're looking at 8 yards of loam max.
8 yards?
Yeah.
My yards to dump truck equation is off. How much is that?
So sort of a typical dump truck that you would see driving around town can hold 10 yards of loam.
So a pretty significant amount of dirt is going in that area.
Well, it's, you know,
So my
no.
issue with that is, obviously that was part of the wetland during some iteration of this property. And it's just been, tamed into a lawn
Right.
because someone put a lot of time into it. So I'm not, it's up to the commission, but I just wanted to bring that out that, now it's, it is lawn. It's been maintained as lawn. I mean, this is a great plan. I actually really like how this plan takes into consideration the habitat that's out there and the future, what it's going to look like and how it presents itself to the woods and the forest that's it abuts. But anyways, that's where I'm at.
Okay, Brian has his hand up.
Yeah, just follow up on that part of the conversation. So when I was there a while ago now, that part to the left of the property, as you see it on the screen right now, that's where, when I was there, it was standing water. That standing water goes under the fence and onto the property next door. Have you thought through what putting that loam in that area will do to the neighbor who is, I guess that's.
They're on Grove Street. Yeah, actually, if anything, these plantings will help suck up a lot of that water. It actually will help their property.
Yeah, Brian,
Yeah.
I want to address that because that's not what's going to happen. We're not putting loam in that corner. We're planting that. So actually, if you look at the house and the two sort of parts that jut out toward that back property line,
Right.
in between there, heading to the left, but not to the far left corner, is roughly where the regrading is going to be.
Okay, yeah, I see. And above that is where there's some evidence of what was sod before. So I know.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And that corner, you're right, I noticed that too. And there will be zero negative effect on the neighbor and to solve it on their end too, with a couple more plants that like wet feet. But yeah,
Okay.
there's.
That's fine then. I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, one last thing. Demetra, is ick a technical term I should learn?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
You know, because you were there too.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who have come to this meeting and have not had a chance to speak? Would you use the raise hand button so that we can see that you want to speak? Okay. Seeing none, are we ready to close this hearing?
I make a motion to close the hearing.
Oh, wait a minute, somebody has their hand up. Bill Lynch had his hand up for just a moment. Bill, did you want to say something?
Okay.
All
Guess
right.
not.
Okay. Nika, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, Bill.
Oh,
we
Bill.
can hear you.
Are you closing the hearing?
Not the whole thing, just this part about 12 Hensley Street.
Sorry, my misunderstanding.
Yeah. If we can close this, we can move on to section 7 about Sanborn Lane.
I made a motion to close 12 Hensley.
I'll second that.
Just to, can I ask a clarification question about the procedure here? So we close the hearing and then we vote on a determination of applicability. Is that the process? Cool.
I think first we have to vote to close. Who's in favor of closing, and then a second. So, so my vote on closing the hearing is in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, and then can we have a motion on the request for determination of applicability?
Chuck has a hand up.
Yeah, so close, discussion, then the approval. And so if you wanted to say something, Joe, now is your time, or if any. So this is also the time for conditions that aren't standard. So we have the boilerplate conditions, and if there's something in addition to that came up during the conversation, then this would be the time to make that condition. Otherwise, we just go on to the approval vote.
I don't see anybody bringing up any conditions.
Okay.
Okay, so can I have a motion to, let's see, if it's a negative determination of applicability that allows them to do the project, correct?
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
somebody.
should I explain more than that? Yes, negative, it means that yes, you're working within the buffer zone to a resource area, but the project is unlikely to alter that resource area. So it's being allowed and doesn't have to be, the commission's not requesting that you file a notice of intent for this project. So that's for the official line. So it's.
Okay, so can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to issue a negative determination for 12 Hensley Street.
Second.
Vote.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Kernahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Part of that boilerplate order of conditions, or it's actually a determination, is going to be knowing when it starts and being able to review it when it's completed. So I'll send that out probably next week. I don't know when the project's going to start. Do you know at this point?
Well, it had better start soon if we're going to get it done this fall. So I have to, yeah, soon. As long as that's.
But we're not talking about Thursday or Friday of this week.
No, we're not. No,
Okay.
we're talking about 2 weeks.
Okay, so I'm not.
Maybe 3.
You're okay with
You're
me
fine.
sending it out next week? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, our next application is 51 Sanborn. Blurb about one. Open public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by William and Jesse Lynch under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for removing 9 trees within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant will provide plantings to mitigate the impact of the tree removal. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under Current Project, Assessor's Map 48, Lot 8, RCC file number 2021-14. And I gather Bill Lynch is one of the people. Can we allow Bill to unmute?
Yep, he's all set now.
Okay. And is there anybody else here with you, Bill, that
No,
we also need to let in?
It's Bill and Jesse, his wife. We're both here.
Okay. All right. So Bill and Jesse, do you want to give us a little bit of an explanation of why you're requesting to remove 9 trees?
Sure. So there are 3 trees to the left of our property, right by our driveway, that are quite large. We've had branches fall on our vehicles and dent them. So that is those 3. And then in the back of the house, there are a couple of pine trees on the right-hand side that are also very large. We have had an arborist come out, and he did indicate that those would need some sort of structural support because they are leaning. And then the other trees, while they aren't that big, they do drop a bit of stuff in our yard and basically make our yard and our deck quite unusable in the spring and the summer. And we have a cherry tree that has stained all of our patio furniture. So we have 2 small kids, and we just feel like our yard isn't overly usable. While the lot is fairly big, the top portion of it on this image is basically all trees. So we want to be able to use the small portion that we have.
Okay. So you say you had an arborist come out who looked at trees 8 and 9. And those are the 2 pines. Do you have a report from them about what their issue is?
So we didn't actually get a report. We had asked for one. We waited about 2 months after the arborist came to get anything from them, and basically they just gave us a quote for some mitigation. He also indicated that tree number 1, so tree number 1 on the left-hand side is dead and decaying.
Okay. All right. Any comments from any members of the commission? Did anybody get a chance to go out and look at the property? Okay, Brian, you want to start us off?
Sure. So I was out there this afternoon, had a nice little walk around and talk with Bill. Couple of points. The tree number 1, the one that is said to be dead and decaying, when you actually look up, the topmost part of the tree is still quite leafy and green. There are some dead limbs coming down a ways. There is a cavity in the back of the tree away from the house with a squirrel in it, live or dead. I don't think Bill or I put a hand in to figure that out. So that's one point. The next 2, which aren't here, are listed as maples. I actually think are oaks. So these trees are tall. The oak trees, there are some significant branches arching over the house. To my eye, at least, they look healthy, and the oak trees, which can last a long time. So I'm a little bit concerned about the idea of just taking those down. I agree with the pine trees on the far right, 8 and 9. What they have is a bifurcation in the trunk as it goes up. And my understanding is that the tree company that came out was recommending some kind of wiring them together or what have you as a structural support. So when I was talking, we talked about the fact that 1 or 2 tree companies came out and gave some opinions. Would be more important to take down. I think this is similar to other projects we've had where it'd be good to see some formal report from an arborist talking about the health of the trees before we approve taking them down. And from my perspective, that's the main thing. I understand the inclination to take away some of the branches over the house. So I understand that. Doesn't mean necessarily agree with it, but I understand it. Likewise, one more thing to add, by the way, somewhere over around the pine trees 8 and 9, that property that's over there, the neighbor over there has had some problems with pine trees of her own. In fact, I think a branch or a piece of one came down and hit her shed. And so to add to this, she certainly wouldn't mind some reduction in the tall trees that are in that area. I think that's all I have to add at the moment.
Did anybody else go out and view the property?
The property next door has been to the commission a couple of times with tree removal requests.
Okay. Chuck, you have some pictures that I took when I went out. I stopped yesterday, but did not, nobody was home when I knocked. So I just looked from outside the fence to see what the trees looked like. And Bill or Jesse, I noticed the fence is not really shown on your plot plan for where the trees are. So it's a little hard to see where the fence is compared to the trees. Can you tell us how long ago that fence was put in?
So we only moved into the house about 2 years ago. So the previous owner put the fence in, so we do not know when that was put in, but based on the plot, it runs basically right along that 25-foot line.
Okay. So does that mean that trees 4, 5, and 6? Okay, what are we looking at here? We're looking at tree 7 and 9 in this picture.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're saying 7 is the cherry, I think?
Yeah, the one on the left, 7 is the cherry tree.
Okay. Okay. And you can see the fence going along the back. All right. I'm just going to say I'm concerned about tree 8, which is not really visible in this picture because it's on the other side of the fence and therefore the other side of the 25-foot line. And we generally have in the past not approved removing trees that are within the 25-foot zone of natural vegetation. So just to start with, maybe Nika has more history with this. I'm concerned about that tree. And Nika has her hand up, so let me bow to Nika.
Thanks. In terms of, just to address what you brought up, Martha, before I get to my questions, in terms of removing trees in the 25-foot, you know, that area is supposed to, the intent of the regulations, the Reading regulations, is to keep that 25-foot zone. And that's something we've stuck with, but we could pick a different buffer depending on the case, depending on the situation, but we've kind of stuck with the 25-foot for quite a while as precedent. But removing those trees, removing a healthy tree from that area is not a benefit to the wetland. It's not a benefit to the resource area. Selectively pruning it to improve its health, supporting it is beneficial. You know, I think a real estate agent told me one time, what's the best time to plant a tree? It was like 25 years ago. You know, but put it in the place you really want it to go. So I'll just chime in with, it's definitely not preferred to take down a healthy tree in the 25. That's to kind of echo what Brian said, to get that arborist report. Some breakdown of what type of tree is it, what's we have the DBH, the girth of it, and what's the health, what does arborists think a health assessment is of it. Besides those points, I had three other questions just reviewing the RDA, and that was there was some discussion of certain trees being stump ground and certain ones being left standing, but I didn't see the breakdown of that on the site plan. So don't go ahead.
We're proposing to grind the stumps for all of the trees within the fence. So that would be 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9.
4, 5, 6, 7, 9. And the rest of them, you wanted to leave standing. Did you already have sort of a thought in mind about what you would leave, how much you would leave standing for that? We've given some guidance on that in the past, although it, do you have some thought on that?
We don't. We're certainly open to suggestions.
Okay. Just as a rule of thumb, what if the commission has deemed it's an unhealthy tree and it's warranted to take it down, the height is some height that allows for creatures to continue to use the tree, for lack of a better word, insects, birds, woodpeckers, as dead habitat, and also a height that, you know, makes what's left behind safe to keep, and so that even if it did fall, it wouldn't, you know, harm the property. So that's just kind of a couple rules of thumb. So that's that. Another question I had is, if you want to go in and take out these trees, what method are you planning on using?
So they talked about bringing in a crane. I don't know what the.
And where would that crane go? Have you thought through where it would be sort of parked or stationed?
He thought he could do most of it from the driveways. So he would need to use my neighbor's driveway in order to do it. I believe that's what they did to remove her trees when she had the issue. I don't know that he's gone all the way through, I guess, like planning a swing plan and those kinds of things. But that was his intention.
Okay. And the last question I have is, it's kind of more a comment, but on the heels of a really big taking of trees, what's your replanting plan?
So we have proposed a replanting plan as part of our application. It does include a combination of trees, bushes, and shrubs, and then also a donation. But again, it's the first time we've been through this, so we're open to feedback and changes to that. There are a lot of trees in the area, so we were trying to not replant very, very large trees, but open to any feedback.
Have you sent in sort of a preliminary replanting plan to conservation at this point, or is it just something that you're saying you're going to do and we don't have a lot of specifics on it at this point?
So we did give a list of what we were planning to replant, but we haven't actually plotted it out exactly where they would go yet.
Okay, so that's still kind of to be accomplished. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see a copy of the list. Donation to Shade Tree Fund equals 2 trees, 1 Sweet Bay Magnolia, 1 tree, 3 dogwood trees, 3 blueberry bushes, 3 red twig dogwood shrubs, 3 spice bushes.
Yes.
But we don't have where those bushes would go?
Correct. Yeah, we have not plotted that out, but we can.
All right. Chuck, what if you put up the pictures of trees 2 and 3 and the picture of trees 4, 5, 6, just so people who haven't been to the property have a chance to see what those trees look like?
Sure. Is that 2 and 3? Sure.
No, that's 2 and 3, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And
and I think I did not get a picture of 1.
whoops.
And yep, we've already seen
I think I just
1.
put the wrong one. Oh, here it is.
I will chime in and just say, you know, those oaks, we should be trying as best as we can to keep those oaks, just because they, I mean, 1 oak tree provides beneficial habitat food support to over 250 native species.
Mm-hmm.
So taking those 2 oak trees that are already healthy and mature and well developed and have a long life, that is definitely not preferred.
Yeah,
I think we feel like they pose an imminent hazard. I mean, we have significant damages to our vehicles, I guess, from them. I think they're too big for the intended use, right? They're directly overhanging our vehicles and our house, and they've proven to cause damage already.
I also think the oaks I think are what causing the all the droppings in our yard in the spring and the summer. I mean, we've power washed our deck and our patio this year alone like 5 or 6 times. I mean, it really makes it almost an unusable yard in the spring and the summer because of all this stuff coming off those trees. So it's been tough.
Well, I'll just share that, I have a monster pine tree in my backyard, and, in the spring it releases a ton of pollen, and it also began to strip the paint off my cars. But, I mean, that's kind of, sometimes that's just what happens when you live close to nature, and it's something that has to be managed and dealt with as best as possible.
I'm also going to suggest that oak trees will have lower limbs that die, and that maybe pruning would be a approach before you simply remove the trees, because you can prune any branches that are likely to fall, and I think the healthy branches are not likely to be the ones that fall. It's the lower branches that are shaded out that are likely to die and then fall. And I did see Joe had his hand up just a minute ago.
Yes, I had raised my hand specifically because so I haven't gotten to see I haven't been able to visit the site yet myself. But my question when, asked about taking down a tree, one question I want to ask sight unseen was the problem posed by the tree something that could be solved by pruning, which is what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will say that the previous owner had these trees pruned fairly regularly, I guess, and we're still having issues, I guess. And in talking to one of the tree companies, right, these trees, most of the lower foliage has already been removed, right? Like these are very top-heavy trees at this point. I don't know how sustainable, I guess, continuing to prune is.
Okay, that might be a question for your arborist when you're getting a report on the health of the trees, to have the arborist answer that question.
I guess
okay.
On that point, we've been having issues obtaining an arborist, despite many attempts. So does the committee have someone
who have the, oh, excuse me for interrupting, but are you that will come out and do the estimate and use their arborist?
So we've used several tree companies and tried to obtain several independent arborists.
Yeah, there's a group in Wakefield that the owner's a certified arborist, and he's been in front of the commission before, and he's also has a tree company. So I know if there's one, there's probably others out there, but I think that there, I drive around town, I see there's signs in a lot of spots. Some of those companies that have the signs out don't have arborists on staff, or don't have arborists that currently have a license. But that is one of the requirements, and it sounds like there's just a little bit of a little bit of more investigation, and we need the report seems like it would come in and be worth putting a little more time into trying to find an arborist. So I would do that, because I know the commission has in the past listened to the advice, and if they could come to the meeting and talk to us, that would be great, or meet us at the site and talk about the trees, that would be even better.
Okay.
All right, and we had the one more picture of the trees in the middle of the backyard, 4, 5, and 6. I don't know that we really need to discuss those separately. It sounds like we will need to continue this hearing until you can come back with a report from an arborist for us to be able to make any judgment on pruning versus removing these trees.
Okay.
Is that what I'm hearing from the commission?
Yes.
There was, yeah, I mean, the questions that I've heard are, you know, which problems could potentially be solved by pruning rather than removal, as well as to get a more formal assessment of the health of these trees 1, 8, and 9 were the ones that were for which there were the most serious health concerns.
Joe, the 2 oaks, I think, are a concern to the homeowners because they believe that's where the branches are coming from. So you're right, the pruning may answer that question, but
that was the thing, is I thought for 1, 8, and 9, it's a question of are they so unhealthy that it's time to talk about, that it's, you know, becomes, you know, really time to talk about removing them. And then likewise for 2 and 3, are they, you know, are we at a point where they are in fact unstable because they are top heavy, or are we at a point where, you know, pruning is, you know, I put trees on my property as well. I don't have anything as horrifying as saying it's stripped paint off my car. That's terrifying, but I do know that I have to have people prune my trees. So there you go.
And I guess I'm just going to comment that oak trees do have oak flowers that are called catkins, and they drop those catkins in the spring and make these big brown windrows on the ground. And, you know, that's part of why the trees are so valuable to the wildlife, is because they produce all those nuts for the squirrels to eat. So you don't get fruit without flowers. And yes, I have had to sweep my driveway and my patio because of the oak catkins as well. I don't know what else they're dropping, but that certainly is just what trees do. Okay. So is there any members of the public that are here that have not had a chance to speak? Please use the raise hand button. Okay. All right. So it sounds like you're having trouble getting an arborist out. So I don't think continuing to the 27th of October makes sense, because you might not be able to get an arborist by then.
Mhm.
Is it possible, Chuck, I guess this is a question for you. Can we continue to an indefinite date and have the applicant report back to you when they have their report in hand, and then you can schedule them for the next agenda?
You continue a meeting to then the applicant has to re-advertise. It's pretty much only appropriate on big projects. So I would just say, you know, what we've been doing, if you want to go out 2 weeks or 2 meetings, sorry. So we have the 27th or the first meeting in November, and that is November 10th. So, you know, I would think that, again, this is a situation that they could just let us know that they haven't found someone after the, you know, a week before or a couple of days before the 27th, and request a continuance.
Okay. Bill and Jesse, does that sound like a plan to you?
So just to confirm, it would be continued until the 27th. And then if we haven't been able to get in touch with an arborist or get a report, I can reach out to Chuck and ask for a delay until the 10th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, request to continue to the next meeting on November 10th.
Okay.
That's all that's needed. And that would be just an email, but you can call me first if you wanted to.
Okay, thank you.
So can I have a motion?
Can I ask one more follow-up? I guess, is there anything else? I guess other action items we should be coming back with, I guess.
You know, it would be nice to see that, you know, like the last project, they took down some trees, and then they hired someone to, you know, really try to replace that habitat that was lost with things that would that lived in the forest that would be supported with what they planted. I understand that you want to use some of this yard, but I mean, that could be a like a vegetated buffer just in front of the fence, in the areas where the trees are taken down that you absolutely have to have down. So that, I mean, that may be the only thing that's missing, is that discussion about the replacement and what would that look like? Because the arborist is not going to bring that into the conversation. He's going to say the double, co-dominant leader is split in the middle and they're likely to fall. And that's true, because that's what we've heard many times. So it's either wire them together or take it down. So, but we'll let him do the report on, or him or her do the report on the rest of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when you're saying the planting plan, we would actually want to see a diagram showing where those plants would be along the, on the property, planting on the plot plan to show where they would plant those magnolias and dogwoods and such, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Nika, you had your hand up.
Thank you. I just want to mention, after this meeting, I was just looking ahead. It looks like we only have 4 meetings left in 2021. So there's 1 November meeting, there's 2 October meetings and we're in one now. So I just want to let the applicant know, that that's kind of our schedule right now. Just for a heads up for future planning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So can I have a motion to continue?
I move we continue the RDA for 51 Sanborn Lane.
I'll second that.
And we're continuing it to October 27th, correct?
October 27th.
Yep.
Anika Hanlon in favor.
Brian Rowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. So we have finished the hearings and we're now ready for old and new business. Chuck, do you want to walk us through those old and new business items?
Yeah, and I'm probably at this point just doing it mostly for anyone listening to this meeting. I have not received any new information from Jim Castellano after our last site visit. We gave him a list of things to do. He said he would take care of those and contact the commission. So that is not the right one. I thought we would get a little bit into that tonight, but I think that I will send that out at the next meeting if the chair and the vice chair agree that it's ready to be discussed. And then I think the next one that we should talk about, because the rest, I've contacted all these people, not any of them are ready for the commission to review this. Their certificates of compliance haven't been happening. I mean, I guess at a point like Hughes and Dement, I don't understand why they're not finished, because that project at Small Lane is supposed to get going. They're linked together, and then Hagstrom has a request for determination that he was getting help from Williams and Sparazers, and I think that's been about 2 years. So I'm going to reach out to everyone on the list and have an update at the next meeting. Of course, we've recently reached out to Jim, so I'm not going to Armor Development, so I'm not going to reach out to them. So the next thing after all that, and there are no bills, is a report that I was going to do for the commission at the request of the chair of the Conservation Commission, to just update everybody on the Chapter 61 land, what I know about it, and Anika and anyone else who's attended the meetings and looked into this can chime in. And Anika has asked me to put together a plan, and So I'm going to show you the plan, and the plan is basically what I know and what I've heard about this project. And a lot of this stuff is from the Conservation Commission. This is a Conservation Commission idea. And I think it was brought forward after group discussion by Nika Scanlon. And I think that, you know, Anika or Martha have attended the meetings, and myself, and tried to support this as much as they can. And Anika has reached out to the Town Forest Committee, and I've reached out to the Trails Committee, and Anika's reached out to the Trails Committee, and we're just working on getting support, but not to push it through if it's not, you know, if it's you know, not right, but to just bring out what we see as people that are environmentalists, and why it's important to the community and why it's important to the town. So this is a plan that I worked on. It's an aerial photo of Bear Meadow. Does everyone see that? I just want to make sure. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is an aerial photo of Bear Meadow, and I know Meadowbrook Golf Club. And I know from plans that I've seen and a plan that was in the select board's packet, that the general size of lots are like 120 feet wide by about 180 feet long, 600 feet from one end to the other, going from, I'm going to say, northwest to southeast. So the lots are quite big. And a lot of what the commission brought up was reviewed by aerial photo, which is something that the Conservation Commission and environmentalists and someone who has an environmental background can do, because that's what we've always done. We've always looked at photos, and the vernal pools and water features and other features have always been recognized through aerial flyovers by DEP. And so initially the plan was to just bring it to the town's attention that this Chapter 61 land, the town gets the first right of refusal on that, which in all intents and purposes is probably considered part of the town forest already, although it's not owned by the town. It's forested, it's vernal pool habitat, it's protected by MESA. That's the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act. And just recently I found out that there are trails in it already. So for a long time, it has been used by people that want to get into the town forest and don't want to walk down Stroud Ave. So right here where my cursor is shows Grove Street. And this is where they start parking along Grove Street, anyone that wants to get into the town forest. And this is a well-established trail that already exists that goes next to what is Lot 5. Inside of Lot 5, I drew out the 18 spots that has been talked about for the parking. I've only used what I know about parking from what I picked up at DRT meetings. There's a 22-foot opening between the property line and the parking area, and the parking areas are generally 18 feet long by 11 feet wide. I did not put in a handicap parking spot, but certainly one could be added. They enter on one side, exit on the other side. It's a parking lot that can be used for parking. It can be used for scout camping. It's a spot where I would think it seemed more secure than to be on the road when you're trying to manage your kids and your dogs and there's traffic going by. So this existing trail runs along lot 5 and then crosses over at some point, and this is just an aerial survey, but we can see the path right here that exists. And I just highlighted it on both sides with this black line that continues through Birch Meadow, Meadowbrook property, just above the gas easement, above the water. And this water is usually a marsh, but this year it's actually a pond. Continue past the gas line and into town forest property at this point right here. And it goes right to where this half circle trail that people know about. If you went to the right, on that side, you would end up in the town forest. If you went to the left, although it doesn't look like it here because here's where the DPW action happens. It is, if you go to the right on the actual trail where it ends up, you're into this area here. So if you wanted to avoid all construction, all equipment, and as you can see, there's equipment 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, there's like, you know, four vehicles in there on this day that this picture was taken. You'd go into the right. So some of the other things that I've highlighted is again, the existing trail is right here. And if an easement was sought by the town for Meadowbrook, it would be between this property line, because this is actually what the town is after, is either lot 5 or the entire 5 lots. So they would need an easement between this line and this line up here. So that's the area of the easement. There was discussion also about what if we put the parking lot somewhere else? And I think that there's certainly, every one of these lots are cookie cutter lots, and that parking can fit on any single one of them. So what if it went on number 1? This is the first lot. It's 400 feet away from the driving range. I don't know how long you can drive a ball, maybe 320 yards, 900 feet, something like that. I don't know. So it's well within range of the driving range, but the range seems to head out in this direction here. And I'm certain some golf balls go in this direction here. But so balls are going in that direction no matter what. How does lot 1 get to lot 5? Well, when these lots are created, the town owns it, they can add an easement between 4, 3, and 2. And that easement will link one across 2, 3, and 4 and drop it into lot 5, and then up through this new trail section and into the existing trail section. I think one thing that I'd want to point out is that this, I'm not getting this. There you go. This area here, the easement is approximately 550 feet long. It's 541, but about 550 feet long. But it's on an existing trail that exists at the moment, so it's not going to be. It's not going to come up with construction equipment or anything like that. So the only other thing that I would add is a sustainability aspect of this property. So you can see the amount of trees that exist there already. I said already that it's, for all intents and purposes, it's part of the town forest, it's part of the habitat. There's vernal pools in the water department land. We protect 100 feet from vernal pools through our regulations, but if you go to classes for MACC or you go down to Garden in the Woods in Framingham, they'll tell you that the habitat area is more like 1,000 feet away. The trees out there are a carbon sink. and cutting them down and burning them or shredding them up releases that carbon into the atmosphere. There's the heat island effect, and there's just, there's just, looking at your town and understanding the feeling that your town wants to put out there. There's the fact that there's just more development in an area that, that could be used for something else. I don't know if Anika or Martha wants to add anything to that. I think I hit most of the points about the trails and whatnot, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Chuck, I have one, and actually it's maybe more of a statement than a question, but my understanding is that somehow associated with the town forest committee, and I might not be entirely right about that, but there's been conversation about having whatever parking lot it ends up being, lot 1, lot 5, whatever, have it be an environmentally designed parking lot, if that's the phrase. I've only just begun to read up on that, but apparently there are companies who will do that. So it's not, certainly not paved. It's not even quote unquote just gravel. It's something beyond that. I just don't know enough about it yet, but that I know there's at least some conversation going on about that.
Sure, and that's a great idea. And when the town, if the town and the town meeting members, if they vote for this project, they're going to have all the time in the world to look at this site and figure out what works best there. Right now, we're under the gun, and the first right of refusal has a time frame of a decision. Is it November 4th? Martha or Anika, do you remember what the date was?
I think November 4th is correct, but certainly we have to have it ready for the town meeting to vote during this special meeting that starts October 18th.
Yes, so, but I think the point I'm trying to address is that if you got lot 5 or all the lots, that's when a feasibility study or town input could come in, and people could say, this is what I want, this, and it really could take on even a different kind of look than we're even thinking about now. But I agree with the parking. This started out as, here's some land next to the town forest that the town should be talking Chapter 61 parcel, just to make sure that they understand that it's available to them if they want it. And if they don't want it, hey, that's great, but at least they knew about it. And I think that's why we brought it forward. And I say we, but we as the commission brought it forward, and just tried to make our make everyone understand that there's possibilities out there.
Yeah.
Anika?
She has lost signal, so she's not with us at the moment.
I'm only looking at the speakers. I have that on my screen. So Martha, I mean, you visited the site. Do you have any information about that?
Yeah. Nika's original proposal at the meeting that Brian zoomed into and Joe was present for was suggesting that we might be able to run the trail along on the water department side of the property boundary. And once I was out there and walked the site, and I know Brian has walked that trail in the past, it's pretty obvious that we really do need to follow the well-worn footpath if we're going to have people access from any of those 5 lots back into the forest from that direction. But there was a lot of excitement at the select board meeting. People have been writing emails and contacting the select board members, and people showed up in person saying that they think we should buy all 5 lots. accept the right of first refusal for all 5 lots. Because that gives us time to make decisions later, and doesn't cut off any of our options. And the select board at the meeting last night voted that they would present both choices to the town meeting, either the option of buying all 5 lots or just buying the 1 lot, and the builder or potential buyer, potential developer has proposed that we could get that 1 lot, which is the one Chuck has marked the parking lot in, for $450,000, as opposed to the more than 2 million to get all 5. And so, but there's a lot of people who are thinking it makes sense to go for the full 2 million and have choices later, rather than just the 450,000, and the other 4 are definitely sold and become houses. And I'm sorry, Nika has not made it back on yet, but Chuck has drawn a picture. I think that's the original line.
Can I jump in for a second? So I heard just this afternoon that there was conversation about a bridge somewhere. Have you heard anything about that? You know what they're talking about?
So yeah, that's what I just drew out. I don't know of any other situation than what I've just drawn out, and that's a poor example of a bridge, but that hump is supposed to represent a boardwalk.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
So there was a question that came up, I believe it was at the select board meeting. Could you enter the town forest from the water department land? But they said town land. And you certainly could along this first straight run. It's a little bit, it's steep right here. It's steep down to the water, but an AMC, and you know, if anyone hikes in the mountains, the AMC trails, the AMC trail teams, you just carve out the edge and you just make a trail. So it could be done. So it has to be an option. And there's a boardwalk here that's needed to go over this water feature. But there's some questions that come up with that about the easement, that's a gas line, penetrating the easement with support for the boardwalk, whether that's feasible or not. It's also an option that's out there, but it doesn't seem to me that this blockage, which would be a boardwalk, would get the approval of the gas company, because we receive a yearly approval from the gas company, and you can all see how nice and clean it is and no vegetation on it. And they like to have it that way because the roots that grow into the gas pipes become a problem.
Chuck, can I interrupt you for a second? Nika lost her signal and she's in town hall, and she's apparently knocking on the door to the conservation office to see if she can hear what's going on in the meeting by becoming in person. And she says she's masked. So do you think you could answer the door? Or,
you know,
send her a text to how to get in or something.
All right. So let's continue. I just want to say that this, obviously this is, it looks like it's 200 feet from one side to the other. It's going to be an obstruction. And for the reasons why I just said, it seems like it could be an option, but I'm not sure if that is going to be a valid option. Hold on one second, and Martha, you're going to have to take over.
Okay. Yeah. So that's where the conversation about the bridge came from, Brian, is I was saying at the select board meeting that if we were going to stay on water department land, we would need to build a boardwalk across the end of the wetland there.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was thinking. It must have been, although when I heard the word bridge, I was wondering if I missed something. So yeah,
no.
Makes sense there.
And let me think what I was trying to say. At the select board meeting, they went into executive session. And during the executive session, there was some discussion that Meadowbrook might be willing to provide an easement that would allow the trail to go into the town forest. So it sounds like the trail that Chuck has drawn in, which is an existing unmarked trail, might work. And, you know, I don't know whether we could then put blazes on the trail or whatever you call the marks to show what that trail is. You know, there's blue blazes on the trails near Wood End School, for example.
Well, I mean, I would say, I haven't been on that trail. It's pretty apparent. There's really maybe a 20-foot section where if you were not a woodsman, you might actually go wrong, but it's pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would think the blazes would be a selling point from Meadowbrook's point of view, because they don't want people wandering any further into Meadowbrook property. So keeping people on the you know, something that we do to make it clear, we the town or does to make it clearer what the limit of the easement is probably makes it easier to get that easement, I would imagine.
And to go back to a point that Chuck was making about the driving range, 300 and whatever yards is pretty long. You see it all the time though at driving ranges where they'll put up a net at the end of it. So even if somebody happened to hit it further than that, first of all, get them on the tour. And then second of all, the net would knock it down anyway.
Yeah. It is curious. The aerial photo makes it look like the stands to the driving range are oriented towards the houses. And as Chuck pointed out, there's going to be you know, having people shooting golf balls at a house doesn't seem like a great plan either.
Although I will say that people who live on golf courses.
We have Anika. Sorry to interrupt.
You got the end.
Yeah, I don't seem to have the power to make her a co-host.
Oh, maybe I do.
Okay.
And if you don't, Chuck's back. So one of you could.
Yes.
I can unmute her. And nope, I can put her in the waiting room, but we don't want to do that.
Thank you. I'm here.
All right.
All right.
You're unmuted at least. That's progress.
Thank you. I'm here. We're going to go with unmute for right now. Sorry, everyone.
I muted her by mistake. Sorry. Okay. All right.
Oh, now she's a co-host.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. So I think, you know, a key thing going on here is just the idea that we should, as a conservation commission, vote which way we feel we should go on this land before town meeting meets on the 18th, so that I believe Nika is planning to make a presentation, possibly with my help, to town meeting, and it would be good for us to have a statement like they often make at town meeting. The finance committee voted on November 7th, 5-0 in favor of this proposal. And so we would want to be able to say something like that. And the two options that are going to be presented to town meeting are that we accept the right of first refusal for all 5 properties, or we make an arrangement with the developer to simply buy only lot 5. And the select board were divided on which of those choices they preferred, but they all seemed to be in favor of one or the other and not simply letting this property go. Chuck or Anika, did you guys have any more thoughts? Am I on track with that statement?
I think you summarized the last select board meeting pretty accurately as far as I could tell. part of what I'm thinking is, I don't know if we're at a point right now to recommend one option over another, except, of course, from a conservation standpoint, having more open space, undeveloped land, trees that are providing habitat and upland to vernal pools, and keeping shade going, and creating additional safety for people who use town forest. There's so many reasons why the town could get a beneficial use out of all 5 lots. I think we have a strong interest in, exercising the right of first refusal from a town forest access standpoint, especially because it was already in the open space and recreation plan that if land came up from Meadowbrook, Chapter 61 land arose, that one of the reports that's on the town website says that parking access on Grove Street to town forest is a major issue. And they recommended solving that problem. And it just seems the time is upon us. Now the opportunities are before us. And so recommending that they act on that to fulfill a strategic goal already decided and posted on the town website, it's kind of a no-brainer to me. It's just realizing that this is the opportunity at a minimum. In terms of the rest, like how that parking lays out, where it is, how we're going to set up access from that lot to town forest. I think the easement is a brilliant idea, especially because it goes through an area Meadowbrook is not using right now. And maybe that can become part of the discussion they have with Meadowbrook. It's not a discussion we should have. It's not our authority. But it's something we can recommend that basically recycles an existing already used path. That makes a ton of sense. And I think what I'd like to propose, and let's discuss it a minute, is just that we have the town exercise the right of first refusal to purchase the land, and as offered. And after that, then we can hash out how to move that forward. And that's, I think we should, lay out the conservation interest that can be protected by buying this land. And, give the members of town meeting the information we can provide about it from a conservation standpoint. And let the town members decide whether they think our reasons for, we can put it together reasons for keeping all 5 lots. We can put together reasons for keeping 1 lot or 2 lots, or putting the parking lot here or putting the parking lot there. We could put together all those reasons and just leave it up to them to decide after they've got the land, how do they want to proceed? Those are my thoughts.
Does anybody else on the commission have thoughts or comments on this topic?
I'll go ahead and say that I like what Anika is suggesting, that we just, for the purposes of informing town meeting, and I assume a lot of town meeting members will look at the trees and be, figure that oh, I bet this is probably a good idea from a conservation point of view. But I also believe it would be helpful for us to, quite frankly, just, state our recommendations in the form of a vote.
Brian, John, any comments?
No, I think you guys are covering it. I think we should be in favor of it, and I understand the idea of presenting a number of different options, so I'm all for this.
Yeah. I mean, so I think you guys have all covered it. I think I'm in favor of either option. I think we should present it as these are both good options, and kind of it's up to town meeting to decide which or any we should go with.
That's actually slightly different from what I heard from Anika. So I'm now, although maybe I misunderstood Anika. Was the idea to vote on a recommendation to exercise the right of first refusal and purchase all 5 lots?
Nika, you want to answer that?
My understanding from the select board, and I'm sorry if I'm not up to date with the latest offers in terms of the sale of the land, but my understanding was originally that it was the arrangement, the only option on the table was to buy all of the lots. I do think there have been some discussions about, instead of buying all of the lots, buying only one of them. So at this point, I don't have a preference. Well, from a conservation standpoint, I think buying something is better than buying nothing. And if we were only interested in protecting open space, upland habitat, and connectivity, getting all 5 lots makes the most sense. Of course, that takes no other considerations into account. That's like, for example, can we afford it? How, do people want to do it? All that other stuff is not our purview. So yes, I want to put it out there. I would like to recommend that we vote on a recommendation to buy one or more of these lots, one or all of these lots, and word it that way. But we recommend the buy and leave it to, the elected body to yes. Does that make
Joe,
sense?
do you want to? Yeah, I think you're saying something similar to John. Joe had his hand up.
Yeah, it sounds like taking the straw poll here. Like, so there's a couple things we could make a we could make a recommendation to say we recommend buying all 5, or we could make a recommendation saying we recommend buying 5 or 1, but please not 0. I'm hearing. I don't think that I would be surprised if any of us didn't support the 5 or 1, not 0 thing. I was trying to figure out from other people's comments whether the commission wanted to make a recommendation to buy all 5. I'm not hearing that from John or Nika. So
okay, I'm gonna make a statement here. A couple of things. At the select board meeting, they had been presented in executive session with the option of buying just one for $450,000. So that option is on the table. There is also the option of exercising their right of first refusal, which means they get all 5 lots and they have to pay the $2 million plus for all 5 lots. The 3-2, the select board, I believe, voted that they thought they should go to town meeting suggesting the all 5 lots option. But I may have misremembered that.
Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna, anybody?
I'll raise a hand here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were 2 votes, and I watched the meeting. I also actually just read the Reading Post summary of the meeting right before this meeting. So I think my information, I've even got the vote numbers right, that there was a 4-to-1 vote to present both options to town meeting. So there will be a motion on the floor of town meeting to, do we want to buy all 5 lots? If that motion does not pass, there will be a motion to, do we want to buy 1 lot? And then if that motion does not pass, we're not buying any lots.
Right.
So 4-to-1, they voted to do that. Present the option of 5, present the option of 1 if town meeting declines to buy 5. They voted 3-2 to recommend the first choice, the one of buying all 5. So,
okay.
And so we could presumably make a recommendation about whether we care about 5 versus 1, or we could just make a recommendation of 5 or 1.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to suggest that if we come out in favor of buying all 5 and the town buys all 5 and then discovers they can't really afford all 5, the town would still have the option of selling some of those 5 lots at some time in the future. Nothing is lost by owning 5 lots for a little while we figure out what we want to do with them. So I'm thinking that, you know, the Conservation Commission could come out with a strong statement and, you know, have a backup plan of, you know, this is what we think is the right answer, but, you know, if that doesn't pass, then we would at least like to see 1 lot purchased. John, your turn.
Can we vote to recommend the buying 5 lots and also vote to support the second motion if the first one doesn't pass? We could come out with a strong statement in support of the 5 lots, and if that doesn't pass, we can also say that we have voted to support the second option to buy the 1 lot.
Sure.
Like, do we have to come up with one? Do we have to vote on one statement or one option to support, or can we have 2 votes on and say yes, we support this first option, and also yes, we support the second option if it comes to that?
I think that's a good idea. And I think they will be presented to the town meeting as 2 separate choices. So the conservation administrator, each one of those things and say that the Conservation Commission voted blah on this thing. So I've certainly heard that at town meeting many times. So does somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a, oh, hold on, I think about the words. I'm trying to figure out, I'm moving to vote. I would move to recommend to town meeting to accept the right of first refusal and purchase the 5 Meadowbrook lots.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Brian both seconded it. Okay. Nika?
Hold on just for a second. Are we recommending to the select board or town meeting?
Town meeting.
Okay.
Oh. Chuck, you got muted all of a sudden, like mid-sentence.
No, sorry. I was just, you sound like you're sure. I'm not sure who we're recommending to, so I'm.
Oh, no,
I heard that.
Yeah, at the select board meeting last night, the select board decided not to decide. They decided to make town meeting decide. Which
so our recommendation is to town meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think the select board can buy land. They can only bring the presentation to the town meeting. The town meeting can buy the land. Okay, and Nika voted, but she was mumbled badly, so try again, Nika.
I'm in favor of recommending to town meeting that we buy all 5 lots as the first, that's the preferred option.
Okay, who's next?
Brian.
Oh, I'm in favor. Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan also in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, so the Conservation Commission voted 5-0 in favor of purchasing all 5 lots by exercising our right of first refusal. Okay, does somebody want to make a second motion?
So I'll try this one. So I move that we vote that in the case of the first option not succeeding, that we recommend a second option of purchasing 1 lot.
Second that.
Brian, do you want to specify which of the lots, or do you want to leave it open?
It's a good question. So I'll amend my motion to have it indicate lot 1, the one closest to Strout Ave.
That's
No,
5.
that's 5.
What's it's like one only different. Lot 5, yes.
Okay. So then, yes, second the motion to recommend that we purchase lot 5 in the event that the town elects not to purchase all 5 lots.
Anika Scanlon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. And Nika has her hand raised.
Thank you, Martha. I wanted to propose a third motion because this is how we roll tonight. That the town also pursue a easement between lot 5 and to cover the area of the current trail as shown on the plan Chuck has up.
I'll second that.
All right.
Question. To whom are we making that recommendation? Because I don't think that's a question that is being posed to town meeting in a week and a half or whatever.
I broadly said that the town pursue those discussions, and so I did that on purpose to make it widely
sure
open
this is
to the select, because I don't want to
I appreciate
out and or yeah and
okay. That makes sense to me, because then, you know, at any point, if any of us is, I don't know, hypothetically in a conversation with the town manager or with the select board or whatever, we can say, you know, about this topic, we can say, this is actually a topic we already discussed and voted on, or, you know, and either did or didn't recommend. So, so I'll go ahead and given that, I'll second Anika's motion.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote on Anika's motion.
I'm in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Joe Carnahan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, are we all set on discussion of chapter 61? And I'm going to suggest that we hold off on voting on the minutes from previous meetings till next time, because I have to admit I haven't had a chance to read the minutes because I've been busy with this topic and other things. So is it okay if we hold off and vote the minutes another day?
Sure.
I think so.
Yeah, I had some minor comments that I sent directly to Chuck. I don't know if it makes sense to just incorporate those or send those back out, or if I should. Oh, Chuck, you're muted. Chuck, you're still muted.
We'll get there.
I can't.
It's 10:30 at night. I get it.
I can incorporate those and send them back out. But I would just ask, did everyone look? Or I know Martha, you said you didn't look.
Right. So, and in the interest of it's already 10:36, I would just as soon give people another 2 weeks to look and wrap up the meeting if there's anything we absolutely must do tonight. I think we can even put off deciding who attends the November DPW meeting till next time. So I'm going to try to see if anybody wants to move to adjourn unless Chuck has something that he knows that we really have to do tonight.
Just adjourn. I think that's the only thing we have to do. I like it. I love it, Joe. You can, my hype crowd. So yes, let's just adjourn. I think this was good.
Oh, wait a minute. I do have one thing I forgot. Are we going to have our next meeting on October 27th hybrid or still Zoom? It might make it easier for Anika if we had it hybrid.
So the plan was to have the meetings in October hybrid. There's a little bit of a, a course or something you have to take with IT that hadn't been able to happen for this meeting. I'm sure it'll be able to be happen at the next meeting. So we'll have the agenda, have the information on it that it's going to be a Zoom link, but it's perfectly okay to come into town hall also and attend the meeting. So everything should work out fine with that. And the commissioners also can come to town hall or stay at your house.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that one?
But there's no going back. That's so the holiday's over, guys. You got to start coming into town hall. So I've been here.
Well, actually, Joe and I missed most of the fun times then, so we're okay with it.
Yeah, they're starting. The
Yeah.
first of the year, it's usually the best.
Okay. All right. So I would say let's move to adjourn. Does anybody want to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay. See you all next time.
Chuck, read your email. I sent you some emails.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
I'll
you.
Probably see some of you at town meeting before our next meeting. So see you then.
Goodbye, all.
Oh, yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Speak up at town meeting. That's all I ask.